Hello, you're watching Initiative Africa. My name is Asha Samput. Welcome to your weekly magazine featuring Africa on the move through smart innovations and initiatives that work. This week, we look at the condition of women and related challenges in Cameroon in particular with our guest. It's time for Initiative Africa. Let's get on with the show with our top stories today. Feminist activist, author and winner of several international awards, this woman writer born in northern Cameroon did not hesitate to flee 2 marriages, including a forced one, to live and thrive from her passion for writing and defending women's rights. Djaili Amadou Amal, Goncourt laureate for high school students in 2020 for her novel Les Impatientes, is our guest of the day.
I have always wanted to write a novel about violence against women. I was looking for a theme for a long time because how could I talk about all forms of violence by focusing on one single character or a single text?
Growing trend of vegetable clubs in Douala and Yaoundé for the greater good of children and parents. They all want to learn about agriculture and farming.
The Vegetable Garden Club is a non-profit organization that helps children produce what they eat.
Active women in Cameroon. Women juggle training, business creation and representation of their fellow citizens. Every woman today must seek her share of the money. You know, find her money share, not stay at home. Reconnecting with nature around agricultural and livestock-related activities is what these children and teenagers decided to do every Saturday in Douala. The objective, after 2 years of interruption due to COVID, is really to motivate parents and children to discover the passion for entrepreneurship in the field of agriculture. Activities that were once quite common in villages with grandparents teaching the youth, but less common today in African urban centers. Our journalist in Douala, Maxime Farrell, followed the activities of the club in the 3rd district in Douala. Take a look.
It's early in the morning, and like every Saturday, several children between the ages of 2 and 10 are visibly fiddling with the earth with great enthusiasm. Among the morning's activities, the teenagers will try their hand at fish farming, taking care of fry, newly hatched fish, and also watering young shoots of various plants. A set of activities set up within the Vegetable Garden Club promoted by the founders who believe they can allow these young people living in an urban setting to reconnect with the land, the basis of all agricultural activity.
The Vegetable Garden Club is a non-profit organization that helps children produce what they eat. So we have developed activities around agriculture, breeding, and introduction to technologies we use to the children. We show them how to sow seed, and we show them how to take care of the plants. They're shown how to conceive a fry, how to raise it, to make it grow. We show them different things, and each one will follow the path that speaks to them the most. Secondly, from a business standpoint, we need to have more and more children who are keen to become entrepreneurs in the agri-food industry so that our countries, Cameroon and the African countries, become truly independent.
A member of the club since the beginning of the year, little Mae Culpa is really having fun. She has already learned the basics of agriculture, which has become a passion for her.
Today we learned how to do layering. We also planted green beans and maize. Did some watering, and we answered a short questionnaire on black soldier flies.
An initiative delighting parents who have enrolled their children in the club. For them, it contributes to reconnecting the youth with the earth and, above all, allowing them to practice an activity that changes them from their daily routine.
It's a different activity from the others, in the open, outdoors, with nature, the earth, and also a great way to get away from the usual activities like dance, sports, to reconnect the children with nature, with the earth that produces the food we eat daily. Before, we used to go to the fields with our parents and grandparents, but nowadays, with our new way of life, it's something we do very rarely.
Basically, the site offers a range of activities that encourages the development of these young people. This has motivated other parents to trust the Vegetable Garden Club with their kids.
Here, at the Vegetable Garden Club, we try to foster this entrepreneurial spirit. It is important for us to bring children into this kind of setting, so that they can discover and become familiar with the environment. And it's even more exciting when you see children having fun while learning. I would definitely invite more parents to join us.
Set up nearly 5 years ago, the club has come a long way since then. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, which somewhat slowed down its activities, the promoter believes that the recovery is positive, with more than 800 children already participating in the project. The majority of them are students from schools in Douala and Yaoundé.
The educational system advocates for knowledge and skills. It means that we transmit knowledge to the kids. We stimulate them so that they combine this knowledge with their talents and hence transform this knowledge into skills so that they can act. We aim to achieve these through practice, which is exactly what the vegetable garden does.
Today we made flour kibbles. Each member made the shape of the kibbles that they wanted. And then we cooked them on the fire. And we also put them in small bags of the Vegetable Garden Club.
Open to children from ages 4 to 17, the Vegetable Garden Club contributes to bringing added value to them on top of the conventional training of Cameroonian youth. While many remain relatively ignorant of the realities of the agricultural world, a paradox in a country like Cameroon, where agriculture contributes about 17% of the GDP.
She was the first African finalist for the Prix Goncourt in France 3 years ago. Cameroonian writer Djaili Amadou Amal drew inspiration for her third novel about the condition of women who are usually asked on their wedding day to be patient. She shared with our journalist Laurent Soustras the origin of her book, Les Impatientes, which is now crowned worldwide and even in the A-level program of Cameroonian high schools.
Djaili Amadou Amal, hello and welcome to Initiative Africa. Your novel, Les Impatientes, was awarded the Prix Goncourt des Lycéens 2020. What's the story behind this novel?
Well, the novel Les Impatientes was first published in Cameroon in 2017 with a different title, Munial, Les Larmes de la Patience, in English, The Tears of Patience. So in 2018, it won the Pan-African Press Award at the Paris Book Fair, and then the first prize at the Orange Prize for Books in Africa for the Best African Novel of that year. So from there, it all started. Publishing house like Emmanuel Collat published it with the title Les Impatientes here in France. It was on the Goncourt list. And became the finalist for the Goncourt and the Goncourt des Lycéens 2020. At the international level, several international contests, including the Greek, Czech, Serbian, Algerian, Tunisian, and even Oriental.
But what is the story of this novel you've been carrying around with you for a long time?
I have always wanted to write a novel about violence against women. I was looking for a theme for a long time, because how could I talk about all forms of violence by focusing on one single character or a single text? Well, one day, during the signing of my second novel, Mistirijo, La Mangeuse d'âme, the soul eater in English, a member of our association, Tabitha, came to me and handed me a piece of paper where it was written in Fulani, advice from a father to his daughter. I realized that we all know this. Every time there's a wedding in our country, the bride has to say goodbye to her father before leaving for her new home. And on this occasion, the famous advice is given, and obviously also reminded to all surrounding women. An advice always starting with this word, munial, meaning be patient. But when people in Africa tell a woman to be patient, it simply means to accept everything, to put up with everything, especially without complaining. And according to this concept of munial, a woman should abnegate her happiness to sacrifice herself for her family, for dignity, for the children. She should constantly think of others. She has to think of others all the time. Ultimately, for me, to talk about violence, the main thread could only be patience.
You give life to women characters somehow trapped, even oppressed, just because of their gender and also by the weight of tradition and religion, which according to you contributes to continuing the spiral of violence?
Well, that remains a difficult question because there's obviously the social-cultural factor. There's also the misinterpretation of religious texts. Other factors come into play which we don't talk about. Precariousness, for example, which is itself caused by climate change, Boko Haram, etc. So the condition of women obviously worsens when there are crises. Let's not forget, for example, during COVID, the health crisis. Well, the condition of women has worsened. So whenever there's an upheaval, the first victims are obviously women and children.
How was your book welcomed in Cameroon and in Francophone Africa? Did it help to open this debate?
Well, the book was warmly welcomed even before it was published in France under the title Les Impatientes. Like I said, it won the first book prize in Africa, but also the prize from the Alliance of Independent Publishers. I mentioned it won the first book prize in Africa, but also the prize of the Alliance of Independent Publishers, since it must be remembered before the book became Les Impatientes, it was already co-published in more than 10 countries. In the Terre Solidaire collection of the Alliance of Independent Publishers. But after the Goncourt, it went even further, because today in Cameroon, Muniel, the Tears of Patience, this Cameroonian version of Les Impatientes, is part of the school curriculum for all senior high school classes. It's indeed a taboo subject that we don't really talk about. The status of women and violence against women is now becoming a subject discussed in schools, and it is really important.
What is your vision of the role of a writer in Africa? Should he or she also be seen as a kind of social agitator, a consciousness raiser?
The writer has always been a consciousness raiser. The writer has always been the mirror of his or her society. And obviously in Africa, this is even more true. The majority of African writers are all literary activists. There are also so many things you want to say. And when you're a woman, it goes even further because you should be able to talk about all these themes, things that you've experienced, that challenge you, that affects you in your life. Welcome to the second part of our show. Let's now head for Western Cameroon to meet strong and determined women. These stay-at-home mothers have decided to gain financial autonomy through training and new activities. The result is personal and economic development that has even given some of them the confidence to embark on political mandates. Aboubakar Sidik Munchili, our correspondent in Cameroon, was there.
The women in the Noun district of Western Cameroon have taken their destiny into their own hands. The atmosphere on Fumban market days is a perfect illustration. Women outnumber the men and are everywhere, carrying out any number of activities.
It's not good that nowadays women are still standing idly by. Every woman today must seek her share of the money. You know, find her money share, not stay at home. I have been doing the market and trade for 13 years now. A lot of things have changed in my life, and I'm really proud.
For the women, it's a newfound pride, a result of their own efforts and ingenuity. In the past, they had been hampered by the lack of training and opportunities. Dr. Adamu Ndam Najoya, then mayor of the municipality of Fumban, and other public authorities in the Noun district, helped set up a process of mentoring and empowering women in the region and beyond.
Ce processus
This process was done in partnership with the African School of Ethics, which is one of Dr. Adamu and Joya's organizations. And in it, we have a program, the Poakone University program, which is a course that nowadays supervises and encourages women to set up small projects, trying to capitalize on their resources and then help them join several other institutions. In other words, single women who can get into groups, create associations, where these associations become collective or community initiative groups, and then these in turn become federations. And finally, these federations gave birth to Poakone federations that exist nowadays. Formed into federations, the various groups are built around mutual aid and solidarity and are now almost everywhere throughout the department. Each has at least 100 members.
The association has made me as you see, because at home my children live well. I don't expect anything from anyone. I stand on my own feet. I make soap from natural products, basic products, because we took that training.
It's an association where members are guided and empowered by other women, and the results speak for themselves.
I have particularly received a lot of training, housewife training, training of women in the society, because in fact, at the beginning, I was a housewife, Peyo's wife. I followed the training of women in politics, and that allowed me to become a municipal councillor for 2 terms of office in the commune of Fumban, alongside Dr. Amadou Ndam Nyoja. And I'm today, well, I went from deputy to honourable deputy at the National Assembly, thanks to this women union.
The women now play a key decision-making role in the region's communes, such as Fumbot. We cannot make any decision in the commune of Fumbot without involving women, and everything we recommend is done together with all the women. The women are now part of the policy-making process, and their training in different professions is also helping their own empowerment. As a result, the mayor and his deputies seem certain of the success of their mission and the achievement of development goals. If you want financial success, you have to start by empowering these women. The empowerment of women allows us to make Fumbot competitive with other cities, because more than 55% of our population are women. You see, for a commune of 41 advisors, we easily have 11 women who are advisors, and not just any advisor. These are dynamic women on the council, and these women, these advisors who travel down to all those villages to try and help their sisters, so that together they push forward the decentralization that is taking place. Private partners who provide specialized training are often asked by local officials in Fumbot and other municipalities in this region of Cameroon to help provide women the means to face up to their current and future challenges.
We had 20 women who were recommended to us by the town of Fumbo. With these women, we work almost every day of the week. We have a training program that spans 3 different streams. We have a first sector, which is culinary art. In the culinary art, we have gastronomy, we have agri-food processing. This one is a common core. The purpose for these learners is to bring them the knowledge so that they are able to use this knowledge to be financially independent.
Such initiatives have helped improve the lives of women in the country in recent years, even if many inequalities still remain. Political will, the efforts of women themselves and groups such as the Noon Communes Union will be decisive in advancing female empowerment throughout Cameroon.
And let's now go back to our guest, Djaili Amadou Amal, for the second part of her interview. She tells us about her association and her conception of feminism for the progress of women in Africa. Let's listen to her.
Djaili, Amadou, Amal,
Djaili, Amadou, Amal, you're from Cameroon, and we know the country is plagued by attacks from armed Islamist groups. Are you concerned by the rise of fear, even a murder that could harm the cause of women?
Well, we've had Boko Haram here for a few years now. Obviously, this has led to women oversensitivity. There's no denying that. When there's a crisis, women and children are the first victims. Obviously, the consequence is that there are many more women and children in the refugee camps or even the camps for internally displaced persons. And of course, like any conscientious Cameroonian, we ask ourselves these questions. And hope that it won't go further than that. But we also have confidence in our army, which has greatly protected the territory. So we are also grateful for that. Today, in the city of Maroua or Garoua, in the far north of Cameroon, we don't feel threatened or feared, anything like that. We feel relatively safe and have confidence in our army, which is trying as much as possible to repel the aggressors.
You have stated that many women simply want to obey to please men. Is this one of the reasons for the persistence of excision?
Well, excision is rather a cultural practice. It's not a religious prescription or something like that. In Cameroon, it still concerns about 500 girls. When we talk about traditions, it is more challenging to convince people to abandon these practices, which are harmful to the girls undergoing them. I think that efforts are being made to raise awareness. And of course, let's not forget that it's an illegal practice. But I still think that the state is a bit pernicious, because if we threaten the people who practice it, we can phase it out. But excision, as much as early and forced marriage or breast ironing, well, maybe we should be more tough and punish the people who practice them.
You have created an association, Femmes du Sahel, Women of Sahel. What is its mission?
Well, I created the Femmes du Sahel Association in 2012. Women of the Sahel Association, after publishing my first novel, L'art de partager en mari, the art of sharing a husband. For me, it was important to talk about it and even go beyond that, break the taboos and create something tangible, to make a contribution, something concrete. So the Femmes du Sahel Association has two components: education, which is obviously the most important one, and then the second one, development. With the association, we sponsor children, we give school supplies to the most disadvantaged. We also do a lot of awareness raising in schools, high schools and colleges for girls on the importance of education and how the education of girls is a development vector, and how to prevent violence, primarily early and forced marriages, which remain the most serious form of violence for me. And then also try to set up as many libraries as possible, especially in rural areas where children generally do not read because there's no access to books. For me, it is very important to give books to children, especially in remote villages, because books allow you to travel and also to free yourself and have dreams. For me, it happened this way. We have several other activities around education, around development, where we encourage women to have income-generating activities. We work with other women's associations on the ground and try to help them as much as possible.
As a writer and a keen observer of society, how do you see the impact on the continent of various movements that came from the West, such as Me Too and Black Lives Matter? Are you already seeing any influence or effects?
Well, I think when you say the feminist movement, in reality, these movements have always existed all over the world. It doesn't necessarily come from the West. It could be perceived like that, which might differ from continent to continent. But women have always fought, sought equality, and to improve their condition. And obviously, even in Africa, where we can say that there are feminist movements, we're not necessarily making the same demands. Still, we're trying the best, as best as we can, to defend our rights by eradicating all forms of violence.
What are the differences between feminism in the West and feminism in Africa?
Well, we are, in Africa, still on the essential, essential feminism, essential. The simplest rights are the rights to education, the right to be born free, and the same rights as men. The right to vote, the basic rights. One day I was at a debate at a European conference with other women from elsewhere. And one of the women, part of a very, very feminist association, the Femen, we all heard about them. She was angry in her claim and with all the necessary seriousness told us how they are fighting for the rights of young girls so that they can go to school without a bra. And I'm asked the simple question, what do you think, Djaili? Well, I think we're not fighting the same battles. I'm fighting for the opposite, so that girls have the right to wear a loincloth over their uniforms, if that allows them to continue their education, their studies, to convince school directors that girls' uniform can be longer, if they want to, if this is what will allow them to go to school. You see, we're still fighting for basic rights.
Djaili, Amadou, Amal, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
Well, that's it. Initiative Africa is over for today. You can find the interview with Djaili, Amadou, Amal, as well as our shows on our website, africaonair.com. And of course, feel free to follow us on our social media channels by liking, sharing, and commenting with the hashtag Initiative Africa. And don't forget, next week, same time, same channel, I will see you again for a new edition of Business Africa. Have a great week and goodbye.